A truck disappears beneath ocean waves. Everyone believes it's finished. Saltwater floods the engine. The body is battered beyond recognition. Then someone turns the key and the impossible happens. Today we're counting down 5 trucks that earned their reputations the hard way, not through advertising, but through decades of real-world abuse. Deserts, floods, mountains, work that never stops. And stay until the end. Because the number 1 truck on this list survived a test that should have destroyed it completely. A story that made the entire world take notice. Let's begin the countdown. Number 5. Ram 1500. Snow covers a remote Montana ranch. The temperature has dropped below 0 overnight. Every vehicle in the yard sits frozen and silent, except one. The Ram wasn't built to chase attention. It was built for people who wake up before sunrise, hitch up a trailer, and depend on their truck to finish the job no matter what the weather throws at them. Introduced under the Dodge name before becoming its own brand, the Ram carved out an identity by refusing to just copy the competition. Deep in its chassis was an idea few trucks had dared try before, a coil spring rear suspension instead of old-fashioned leaf springs, giving it a smoother ride without sacrificing toughness. Under the hood, the legendary Hemi V8 paired brute power with genuine long-term durability. But that's where the story gets interesting. Ranchers across the American heartland have pushed these trucks past 200,000 miles, hauling livestock trailers through blizzards and blistering summer heat. Picture a rancher, alone before dawn, starting his Ram in sub-zero silence, load already hitched, because the herd doesn't wait for warmer weather. It isn't flawless. Early transmission troubles and rust concerns in certain years have tested owners' patience. But ask a lifelong Ram owner why they've never switched brands, and they'll tell you it simply never let them down when it mattered most. Fun fact, the Ram name traces back to a hood ornament used on Dodge trucks in the 1930s, a symbol of stubborn strength still charging forward today. The Ram proved itself on farms, but the next truck became so popular that entire generations grew up seeing it everywhere. Number 4. Ford F-150. Picture a snowstorm burying a mountain construction site. Visibility drops to almost nothing. And still, one truck keeps hauling equipment up the grade. Engine steady, wheels churning through the drifts. The F-150 wasn't built to be exciting. It was built to be there every single day, for every kind of person, doing every kind of job. For decades, it's been the best-selling vehicle in America, not just the best-selling truck. That kind of dominance could have made any manufacturer complacent. It didn't. Ford engineers took a massive gamble, switching the body to aluminum construction, shedding hundreds of pounds while keeping a high-strength steel frame underneath. Critics called it reckless. What happened next shocked even skeptical buyers. Contractors began running the same F-150 for over a decade straight, hauling lumber and machinery across icy roads and scorching deserts alike. Fleet operators loved it for one simple reason. When something finally did break, parts and service were available almost anywhere on the planet. Of course, it has real weaknesses. Aluminum repairs can run pricier than traditional steelwork, and certain turbocharged engines have had their share of issues. Still, mile after mile, owners keep arriving at the same conclusion. It just works. Fun fact, the F-150 has held its sales crown for so long that entire generations of American drivers have never known a world where it wasn't the best seller. America had its workhorse, but across the world's harshest deserts, another machine was writing its own legend. If you're enjoying this countdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It helps the channel grow, and we've got many more incredible truck stories coming your way. Number 3. Nissan Patrol. Sand stretches endlessly in every direction. No town, no fuel station. No help for hundreds of miles. Temperatures push past 120 degrees. This is where the Nissan Patrol became a survivor. Introduced in the 1950s, the Patrol was engineered around a single mission: conquer terrain that destroys ordinary vehicles. Its rugged body-on-frame construction and powerful inline-six engine turned it into one of the most respected off-roaders on the planet, especially across the Middle East, Africa, and Australia, where it's treated like royalty. The desert didn't stop it. The heat didn't stop it. Sand that swallowed lesser vehicles whole simply couldn't slow it down. desert rescue teams have relied on the patrol for generations. Picture a rescue crew racing against dying daylight, dunes rising like waves on every side, because somewhere out there, a stranded traveler is running out of water. That's the world the patrol was made for. Its weaknesses are real too. Limited availability in certain markets and heavier fuel consumption than smaller trucks have held it back from wider fame. But in the regions where it matters most, that rarely changes anyone's mind. Families pass patrols down like treasured heirlooms. Fun fact, the Nissan Patrol and Toyota's own legendary off-roader have been locked in a friendly rivalry across desert nations for decades, each claiming bragging rights as the ultimate survival machine. The Patrol conquered deserts. But the next truck became something bigger, a lifeline for people living beyond the reach of normal roads. Number 2. Toyota Land Cruiser. A rescue team enters a dangerous mountain road. Fog rolls through the passes. The trail is barely wide enough for one vehicle, and there's no room for hesitation. The Land Cruiser was never just a truck, it was a promise. Introduced in the early 1950s, it was built on one uncompromising idea: simple, overbuilt mechanicals that keep running with almost no maintenance, even where the nearest mechanic is hundreds of miles away. Deep inside the engine bay was a machine designed for one purpose: to keep moving when everything else gave up. Its engines became legendary for longevity, with countless examples surpassing 300,000 miles while still working every day. Picture a humanitarian convoy crossing conflict territory, delivering medicine to a village cut off from the outside world. There is no room for failure. The Land Cruiser leads the way, because when a mission absolutely cannot fail, this is the vehicle people trust with their lives. In the mountains of Central Asia, in the frozen stretches of Siberia, it became less a vehicle and more a lifeline. You would expect a machine this capable to have no downsides. It does. It's expensive, and in many markets, it's grown harder to find as manufacturers shift towards smaller SUVs. But for the people who depend on it in the world's most unforgiving places, price was never really the point. Trust was. Fun fact, the Land Cruiser has been in continuous production since 1951, making it one of the longest-running nameplates in automotive history. The Land Cruiser became a symbol of survival, but one pickup truck took that same philosophy and turned it into a worldwide legend. Number 1. Toyota Hilux. This is it. The truck many consider the toughest pickup ever built, the Toyota Hilux. Introduced in 1968, the Hilux was never designed to be glamorous. It was designed to work, and to keep working long after everything else quit. Over the following decades, it quietly became one of the most widely distributed vehicles on the planet, driven in more than 180 countries and regions, from remote Pacific islands to scorching deserts to freezing mountain passes. Its secret isn't complexity, it's the opposite: a simple, overbuilt engine, a ladder-frame chassis designed to flex under stress instead of snapping. Fewer components that can fail when it's buried in mud or baked by desert sun. The desert didn't stop it. The mountains didn't stop it. Time itself couldn't convince it to quit. But this truck had one more challenge to survive, and it became the moment that made it famous around the world. The hosts of the British motoring show Top Gear set out to destroy a Hilux on camera, on purpose. They drove it into the ocean until it disappeared beneath the waves. Everyone expected the story to end there: silence. Then, after the salt water drained and the engine dried, someone turned the key. It started. They weren't finished. They dropped it from a crane onto solid concrete. The body crumpled. They welded it back together, only enough to make it roadworthy, and drove it away. Then they placed it on the roof of a building scheduled for demolition and detonated the entire structure. When the dust settled, the crew dug through the rubble, cleared the engine bay, and turned the key one final time. Silence again. Then, suddenly, it started. The Top Gear test made the world notice the Hilux. But the people who depended on it every day already knew the truth. In the Australian outback, Hilux trucks are standard equipment on cattle stations, crossing thousands of acres of sun-baked terrain every single day. Across rural Africa, they serve as makeshift ambulances, carrying patients hundreds of miles where paved roads simply don't exist. In South America, mining operations and remote mountain villages depend on them to navigate trails that would strand almost anything else. Humanitarian organizations have used Hilux trucks for decades to deliver food and medicine into disaster zones and conflict areas, because when a mission absolutely cannot fail, this is the truck they reach for. Picture a farmer starting his Hilux before sunrise for the 10,000th time, never once wondering if it will start. Picture an explorer, hundreds of miles from the nearest town, where a breakdown isn't an inconvenience, it's a crisis. This truck should not still be running after everything it's been through, and yet it is. It isn't flawless. Ride comfort has historically taken a back seat to durability, and older models lacked the refinement of some competitors. But few trucks have earned a reputation like this, built not through marketing, but through oceans, demolition sites, and decades of impossible situations, survived one after another. Fun fact, that ocean and demolition test became one of the most replayed vehicle stunts in television history, and for millions of viewers, it's the exact moment the Hilux's legend was born. Right now, somewhere in the Australian outback, a Toyota Hilux is climbing a rocky trail. Somewhere in Africa, a Land Cruiser is carrying medicine to a remote village. Somewhere in America, an F-150 is towing heavy equipment through a snowstorm. Somewhere in the Middle East, a Nissan Patrol is crossing endless sand dunes. And somewhere on a ranch, a Ram 1500 is beginning another day of hard work before the sun has even risen. These trucks were built in different countries, for different people, and for different missions, but they all proved the same thing. A legend isn't created by advertising. It's created when a machine keeps moving after everything else gives up. If you had to choose one truck to survive anywhere on Earth, which one would you trust? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more legendary truck documentaries.